Hello everybody, thank you for being here. Appreciate you as always here on Tuesday nights. With that being said, going to go ahead and make the switch to Sunday night like I've been questioning and possibly kind of alluding to. So last week instead of on Tuesday, we did our session on Sunday, right? I have been wondering and thinking and contemplating switching from Tuesday to Sunday for a while. I've explained this a couple times. I used to have Tuesdays off of work. I now work Monday through Friday, so I just have a little different schedule. And it just feels like, Sundays I typically am not working, and it just feels like I will have more energy, more space, more to give, more fully on Sunday. Plus, doing it on Sunday, like it's the start of the week, right? So sometimes there's things that we're talking about that I talk about that were exact on Sunday or on Monday or earlier on Tuesday before our session. Coming in on Sunday, it will give us a little bit more time to, catch all of those things ahead or in real time or what have you. So Tuesday night this week, Tuesday night next week, Sunday night the following week. So September 15th will be our first Sunday night session. I'll talk about this next week as well, and there will be reminders online. The Facebook events on the Facebook page are up for the next 2 weeks to correlate with that. So if you want a reminder about Tuesday and then Sunday, feel free to go to the Meditative Astrology Facebook page, go to the events tab, and click on the correlating event. And that will give you a reminder through Facebook if you're a daily social media user that the event is coming up and that our live session is coming up. Also, it gives you more time to catch it within relevancy, like as a replay if you're not able to join us on Sunday. I'm hoping that Sunday will be a better day for most people as well. So putting that out there right at the beginning, Tuesday this week, Tuesday next week, Sunday the following week, and we're just going to stick with that. We're just going to roll with that. And whenever you're able to join in, catch the replay, however it is that you're able to participate, we greatly, greatly appreciate that. So with that being said, let's roll into this week. So I am going to put the intention up right away to start if you haven't seen it already. Rhythms that build and dismantle develop. Rhythms that build and dismantle develop. Now, whether or not you've already heard this intention, take just a moment to sit with that and see what comes up. Just first glance, just first thoughts. Don't need to get real deep into it at the moment. Just rhythms that build and dismantle develop. What is the first thing that pings within your own mind and your body? What feelings, what thoughts, emotions? Is it something that's exciting? Is it something that's a little nerve-wracking or maybe a little scary, a little anxious-inducing? Or does it bring like excitement and enthusiasm? How does that make you feel? Looking in the comments here. Hi, Nikita. Hi, Kevin. Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate you guys being here as always. All right, let's talk about what we have going on this week. So Virgo new moon yesterday, Monday. So we are just coming off of that new moon energy. And several aspects that are in the applying phase for the new moon that go exact throughout the week. So all of the aspects that we talk about this week, except for the sign change, applies to the new moon. And then the things that apply to the new moon, those apply to the lunar cycle for us. So we're looking at this next lunar cycle, so the next month or so, about 28 days or so until the next new moon. So new moon in the sign of Virgo, just on its own. The new moon is a seeding point. It's an initiation point, as always, in the sign of Virgo. In an earthly sign, it's a solid, well, it's not a solid sign. It's an earthly sign, so it's a grounding sign, but it's a mutable sign. I was saying solid as like grounding, like earthly, but that's not the right term here in this aspect. So it's a very earthly, feminine, grounding, solidifying sign. It's a place to have a new moon, but it's a mutable sign. So it's solid in the way that it's grounded and that it's steeped in the material world, but it's changeable, it's flexible. Mercury or Virgo is ruled by the planet Mercury. Mercury is the most changeable planet that we have. It changes its phases, it changes its sign the quickest, it moves back and forth across the sun the quickest. Mercury is the planet, is the god that can go to and from the underworld, and we see that through its cycles. Think about how often Mercury goes retrograde based off of like the other planets. We talk about Mercury retrograde more than any of the other ones, right? So there's this changeability within the mercurial sign. So that's Gemini and Virgo. We don't necessarily see the change as like forefront in Virgo as we do Gemini, because Gemini is an air sign. So an air sign is changeable on its own and has some sort of flow to it. But when there's an earth sign, there's this stability. So there's like this stability within change in the sign of Virgo, right? So Virgo is very detail oriented, very much able to pick apart little teeny pieces, all the little details, pull them apart, separate them, and discern what we need to keep, what will work for us in the future, and what pieces maybe we've already used. Rationing and delegating, these are very Virgoian type themes. So that's just the Virgo new moon in a nutshell. So creating something new within these this stable way and this solidifying way of being able to pull things apart in different aspects and analyzing those and seeing what is useful and what is not useful. Virgo, I always like to think of the concept and the idea of the Virgin when it comes to Virgo, because it's very, very fitting. Think of the maiden, right? So we have the maiden with an ear of corn, okay? That's our symbol for Virgo. So behind the archetype of the Virgin, you have somebody, a female archetype or female energy that does not belong to anybody, has not fully given self to any one person. So therefore there's this not belonging to anybody, but within that way of not belonging to anybody, being able to serve everybody at the same time. Virgo is very much a sign of service, and in its little ways of being able to pull things apart, it's able to see where that help and where that service and where that ear of corn needs to be extended. And with the whole like not belonging to anybody, it's able to change and flow and be a little flexible about where that help and where that assistance is given, depending on where it's needed. So this new moon itself was in opposition to Saturn. So we have these Saturn qualities that pull into the new moon this week. So Saturn in the sign of Pisces, pulling apart these different emotional collective connections that we all have. That could mean a wide variety of things for all of us. That could mean getting in touch with our emotions. That could be looking at how we relate to the collective energy that is around us, how we assert all of our little pieces of ourselves and how we pull that into the big pool of everything, that collective pool. It's a little bit obscure. Sounds a little obscure because it can be a little bit obscure, but there's this excuse me. There's this way of looking at deep collective connectiveness in the sign of Pisces, and Saturn brings that seriousness to the sign of Pisces. Okay, so looking at that deep connection, those deep frameworks that are within us, and how those connect together or how they don't connect together. So it's very much a like a somber, reflective place when you have Saturn in the sign of Pisces. It can be a little melancholy, it can be a little bit heavy at times, but that's what Saturn in Pisces has been doing, okay? So now we have this new moon in opposition to that. So when you have the new lunar cycle that is opening in opposition to this Saturn that has been looking at these deep, heavy emotional connections and how we relate to the whole and how the whole relates to us and back and forth, it's very cosmic soup-like, where everything is just kind of mixed together and stewed together. Now you have this ability and you have this moment to create a new cycle and new habits and new routines within that collective soup that we've been kind of stewing in. Where is our place in the collectiveness? Where is the collective place within us? How do we relate to the whole? How does the whole relate to us? Many of us have been having those discussions within our mind on some level, probably relating to where Pisces is within your own chart. So we've been contemplating these things. Now Virgo new moon comes along in opposition to that, and it's able to, maybe if there's been a little bit of overwhelming, maybe it's been a little bit foggy and you're not really able to like clearly see which way to go, which way to move. Now Virgo, that is very good at discerning the little different pieces and pulling different things apart and looking at each individual piece on its own. That might feel like we're neglecting the other pieces, but really it's just giving the proper attention and focus to that one specific piece, while being able to put the other things, the focus away from the other things and say, I will come back to that here in just a little while type of thing. It's making me think of like my job in my line of work where like I'm a CNA, so I've worked in nursing facilities, a nursing assistant taking care of people, for over 10 years. And when I worked in a facility where I was on a unit where I had, however many people that I had to take care of all at one time, and like all of those call lights and things are ringing, not everybody will be able to get this analogy, but it's working for me in my head right now, so I have to share it. So like you have all of these people that you have to focus on, and you can't give your one attention and focus to one person at a time. Now I work a job where I do the same thing, but I focus on just one patient at a time. I don't have 10 people in one area. I'm able to focus on just one person at a time. So that's kind of what this new moon opposite Saturn in the sign of Pisces feels like. If there's been all of these, you feel like you're pulled in all these different directions and there's all these different ideas and thoughts and opinions and all these different things. Now we are able to slow down, take a breath, and say, no, I'm going to focus on this little part right now. No, I'm going to focus on this little part right now. One piece at a time. Saturn is slow, okay? Saturn is not fast moving. So we may want things to go a little quicker than what Saturn is willing to let us go. But in taking our time, Saturn puts those building blocks in exactly the right place. Think of like the foundation of a house or like laying bricks. You have to have each one in the right spot. It has to be laid flat. You have to have whatever the concrete stuff is in between, you have to have that laid just right, or it's not gonna, like the next block is not gonna lay right. You have to focus on one thing at a time. So we have that ability here within this lunar cycle to kind of pull those little pieces apart, focus on one thing at a time. Some of the aspects that we have this week might make it a little bit more difficult to focus on just those one thing, just that one little piece at a time. So Pluto has moved its way back into 29 degrees of Capricorn. We talked about this last week. We've actually talked about it for a couple weeks now. Pluto is now finishing up its last little stint in the sign of Capricorn for the rest of our lives, okay? It does not go back to Capricorn for over 200 years. So none of us will be alive when Pluto is, at least in this lifetime, when Pluto moves back into Capricorn again. So wherever Capricorn is within your own life, within your own chart, look at the whole sign house of Capricorn, or whatever house division system that you use, and see what house that is, and see where the transformation is that needs to take place there. What has been happening, and what finishing touches can you bring into that? Because this is your last little stint here, where we have through November, where Pluto's going to be in Capricorn. So this is our last little bit to dig deep within the house where Capricorn is within our own lives, and see what there is to excavate, see where there is a power that we can find within our own selves by pulling things up from the deep somehow. So that's something for you to contemplate on your own. So that was Sunday, new moon on Monday. Today, so Tuesday, Monday into Tuesday this week, Mars in the sign of Gemini, 28 to 29 degrees of Gemini, squaring Neptune in the sign of Pisces. So more Pisces information here. We're at those last couple degrees. Neptune is at 28 degrees. Mars has now moved to 29 degrees. So we're starting to have that separation, but they're still holding very, very tight together. When you have Mars and Neptune coming together, there can be some pretty strong will in one way or another. I often talk about Neptune in two different ways. I often talk about it as something that fully envelops us within something. So we fully immerse ourselves or feel intoxicated by something, fully focused on one thing. The other key words that I like to use is like a smoke screen, where like there's like some sort of film or some sort of filter, something that we're not able to see things quite right. And sometimes that smoke screen, Neptune brings that screen in front of us, but other times what Neptune does is it starts to separate that screen, and then we can see the full picture. Mars squaring Neptune, especially at the end degrees of these signs, Mars is squaring Neptune, and then 2 days later moving into the sign of Cancer. Neptune won't move into Aries until 2025, but we're still finishing up that last little bit compared to how long Neptune has been in the sign of Pisces. So they're both finishing up work in their own signs. So what is being shown? What is the bigger picture between Gemini and Pisces, between air and water, between the collective emotional part of you and the mental mercurial part of you, the part of you that wants to bring in all the different information and do all the different things and all the different parts. What is the last little stretch here where you can take some sort of action, have some sort of strong will or ability or the desire within you to move forward with something. This can fully envelop us and immerse us in something where we just become like full on committed to something, like very much like protester type energy or like martyr type energy, where you're like really going to stand up for something because you have this drive and this motivation of the air element of Gemini, often very communicative, and like lots of things can be flowing, lots of thoughts, lots of words. Where Neptune, we may be fully focused on something, and you may have a very, very good point, but you may not fully see the other things because you are so immersed in your part of it, okay? So you may be seeing the bigger picture of something, but are you seeing the full bigger picture of the bigger picture? Like, are you seeing other people's perspective? I feel like that's one thing that Neptune does, is it makes it kind of hard for us to see other perspectives, because we become so fully committed or so fully connected to something. Think about the spiritual connection of Neptune. Like, when you have a Neptunian experience of some kind, you are so fully connected to that experience that there is no way that anything else could ever be true, right? Like, it's that type of thing. Same thing can happen with our own personal beliefs, and especially our personal beliefs related like to the collective energy and to that collective water emotion. So this right here is one of the aspects for our intention this week: rhythms that build and dismantle develop. So Mars and Neptune together can build some pretty powerful, strong energy. Air and water, so words and emotions. Thoughts and emotions, thoughts and connection, like very powerful stuff. But it can also tear things apart and dismantle things. I was using the word dismantle because dismantle feels more like pulling things apart into different pieces rather than like destroying or like removing or like doing away with completely. It's pulling them apart, to like maybe be utilized later. So I'm thinking of like right now I'm thinking of like the Mr. Potato Head toy with like all the different pieces with the arms and the eyes and the nose and things and all these different pieces that you have to put, that you like take apart and you can put in a pile and you can utilize them later. You can put them in the back of in the back of Mr. Potato Head, to use them later on. So you see where this energy can be a little bit overwhelming and a little haywire. And I think this is where that Virgo energy can definitely be useful. On Wednesday, Venus conjoins the South Node. So Venus has moved into the sign of Libra. Venus has made her way through Virgo, where she had a little bit of a struggle and had to be a little bit out of her comfort zone, but that's okay. She's now in the sign of Libra, and she's making her way towards the South Node. Only 2 degrees of separation at the time of the new moon. So this aspect is definitely in play for the whole lunar cycle. So Venus conjoining the South Node, if the North Node is something that we're kind of pulled towards and somewhere that it feels like somewhere new territory to explore, the South Node being where we've come from, our past, what we've already experienced, our lineage, our history, the things that maybe pull us back because they're comforting or we're used to them, or like cycles that we kind of keep falling back into, and it's hard to move forward and do something different, right? It's easier to kind of just stay in the same track or fall back into old habits, things like that. Those are South Node type things because it's kind of like where we've been and where we're going, okay? Not to say that one is better than the other, because it's a balance. It's a being in the middle of both somehow. So when Venus conjoins this South Node, Venus being the planet of harmony and desire and cohesion, where can you find some sort of harmonious release during this lunar cycle? What, as the eclipses are finishing up in Aries and Libra, Venus conjoining the South Node in the sign of Libra, what is not serving you in a harmonious way? Remember, Venus is in its own sign, so Venus is really looking to bring forward that harmony. It's an air sign again, so within the mind, within the thoughts, within the way we connect to others. But what kind of harmonious release is there that you need to reach for? Maybe there's some sort of action that you need to take. What is no longer serving you? Where can you build cohesion on the letting go? Okay, this is that building, dismantling. So what can you say, okay, this has served me well in the past. It's probably not going to, but I've learned my lesson from it, or I'm finished with it, or whatever the thing may be. There's some sort of completion there. So even though there is this maybe a little bit of going against the grain with the new moon being opposite to Saturn, it's that serious tone of Saturn that pulls over into Venus conjoining the South Node in the way that, okay, we now need to take seriously what the South Node has given for us. We need to give thanks and gratitude for what we've learned and what we've experienced, but it is now time to move on to the next step or to the next phase. This may be something that we've been trying to work through for a while, and now finally has its peace, and like we can finally have some sort of breakthrough here. I'm thinking in a very like gentle way with Venus in the sign of Libra, very flowy, very like maybe you don't even really realize the release. Maybe it doesn't have to be a big stark one. Like it's not Mars on the South Node, right? It's Venus on the South Node. And so on the same day that Venus, also on Wednesday, the moon moves from the sign of Virgo into the sign of Libra. I feel like that's just another little nod towards Venus. Like, yes, you are in the place of harmony. You are in the place of balance and diplomacy and justice. You are in the place where we can all have what we need. So you can take what you need from the past, and you can leave what no longer serves you from the past. All of your experiences, you can take some of that forward, and you can leave some of it behind. Whatever you need to do to balance those karmic scales in a way. So there's some healing, and there's some releasing, and there's some moving forward in this lunar cycle. Same day, Mars moves into the sign of Cancer. We're going to be having Mars in Cancer for quite some time. And Mars in the sign of Cancer is not the most comfortable. Mars is exalted in the sign of Capricorn, so it's in exile or in a not so good place in the opposite sign, which is the sign of Cancer. That's just because Mars is not able to act like typical Mars. Mars likes to be straight to the point. Mars rules Scorpio and Aries, so Mars wants to be direct, be straight to the point. It does not want to mess around or beat around the bush at all. Mars can be assertive, and it can be a little bit aggressive. It can be a little bit right in your face. It can be a little bit of grit, right? So when you have that in the sign of Cancer, in a water sign that is ruled by the moon, ruled by our emotions, you can have strong emotional action happening. Mars in the sign of Cancer can be a little bit shifty. It can be quick to move, quick to change, but there can also be some healing action when Mars is in the sign of Cancer. So it could be taking those steps that you need to heal from whatever it is that you need to heal from. It could be taking the steps to start therapy. It could be taking the steps to protect yourself in your own space or your own energy. It could be standing up for yourself or standing up for others. Any of that could be seen by Mars in Cancer. Cancer is ruled by the moon, okay? The moon brings us our lineage. It brings us our memory body. So that's our conscious memory, our subconscious memory, the lineage genetic memory that is implanted within each and every one of us as things are passed down through different generations. It's where we've come from. Mars likes to cut and sever. Mars is the knife. So if Cancer is the root, the home, the sphere, think about like the shell of a crab. Mars is protecting or cutting away from that private sphere, that private space, okay? So it can be very protective. It can be very it can lash out. It can very much be a sign that wants to make itself known in an emotional way. Like, why are you not listening to me? Why are you not hearing? Why are you not understanding why I feel this way? Why are you not understanding why this person feels that way? Very much related to its own being and its own space and its own family and sphere. So Mars in the sign of Cancer can be very, very healing in a bit of an tense, little bit of a brash way. If it sounds like I'm talking down on Mars and Cancer, I'm a Mars and Cancer native, so I know a lot about this placement itself. I actually have lots of Mars and Cancer placements within my family. It's a bit of a trait. One of my daughters has Mars in the sign of Cancer, as well as one of my siblings. So I would like to say that I know a little bit about Mars, the planet of movement, the planet of drive, motivation, being in the watery place of your sphere, of your own home root sphere, of the place where you've come from. It's wanting to speak loudly and create actions from where you've come from, whether that's positive or negative, whether that's upholding your family traditions and family values, or whether that's going out and creating your own traditions and family values. It's very important to have that own personal space and allowing that to excel. So this is just another nod at things changing, things shifting, rhythms that build and dismantle. So Mars in Cancer is going to start building something for us, but the chances are that there's going to have to be something that it kind of pulls apart or deals with or dismantles in a way that it allows us to kind of go forward with that. So yeah, very, very protective and very, very focused on its own sphere and its own community. So there could, while Mars is in the sign of Cancer, healing based on our family karma, our roots, our lineage, memories. So maybe there's some sort of trauma that we need to heal from or release or work through. And we're going to have quite a bit of time to do that because, so Mars is going to be in in Cancer until November, and then it's going to move into the sign of Leo. It's going to make it to 6 degrees of Leo, and then it's going to retrograde back into Cancer. So any placements that you have in the second half of Cancer or the first 5 to 6, 7, 8, 9 degrees of Leo, those planets are going to be affected by the Mars retrograde that we will be talking about later on this year. And that Mars retrograde in the sign of Cancer, even though we're not going to get to these first, like the first 15 degrees again, I think it retrogrades back to 17 degrees. We're going to start to see these themes of like reworking. So this is where I say that there's the ability to heal wherever the Cancer is in our own chart and our own lives, because as Mars moves forward and then it moves back, it's going to rework something in the sign of Cancer. So reworking things based on our home, our roots, our lineage, our memory body, our ancestry, where we've came from, those that have come before us, and the parts of us that have come before the part that we are, like the whole self that we are now. So hopefully you're starting to see where there's this building and dismantling aspect. Also, the new moon that we had, when the full moon comes around in the sign of Pisces, that's going to be a partial lunar eclipse. So we're getting into eclipse season. So in the next couple weeks here, we're going to start talking a lot more about that. This partial lunar eclipse is going to be the first that we have across the Pisces-Virgo axis. So we're going to start to see new themes in this new area of our life and of our chart activated. And there is a lot about the Virgo-Pisces axis that is about pulling apart the details, Virgo, looking at each little bit and dismantling things, and then building and putting all of the details together and mixing them together into that cosmic soup that is the sign of Pisces. So there's lots of this building and dismantling back and forth across this axis. And as we start to see more of that energy and as our eclipses move into that area, we will see more of that playing out in our own lives. There's a lot going on this week. There's a lot of shifting, changing energy. And it feels like, rhythms that build and dismantle develop. So keeping our eye, keeping our focus, I thought about putting that in there. I focus as rhythms build and dismantle. But I just wanted to put it out there for however it is that we each need to utilize this building and dismantling, this ever-changing energy. We've been talking about it for the last few weeks about how like things are just kind of shifting, things are changing. New moon opposite Saturn, things might not feel like they're changing quite as quick as we want them to. We might feel like we're kind of sputtering or spinning our wheels in the mud a little bit. That can be a bit of Mars in Cancer too, just spinning and reeling and revving up in its own area without fully releasing all of it. That can be very Mars in Cancer. So there could be, a little bit of strife, a little bit of man, this should be a little bit easier than what it is, but really it's exactly the way it should be, right? And Pluto being back in Capricorn, there's going to be those themes that we've been seeing, those Capricornian things that we have been seeing over the last while are going to just show up in their final form, whatever that means. So some of us may have the rewards coming to us. Some of us may have the final boss that we have not defeated yet showing up. So looking at all of that for all of us and how things are changing and how things are building. So with all of that being said, there's some shifting. There is some things that are changing. New moon gives us a new chance to go forward. Mars and Neptune are coming together and giving us this emotional and physical and mental connection and drive. So if there was some very passionate actions or discussions over the last couple days, that could be very Mars Neptune. Venus conjoining the South Node as we are making our way towards eclipse season. Venus comes into contact with the south node, the one that typically kind of pulls us back or hinders us and pulls us back into those old habits, and brings some harmony and cohesion as Mars moves into the sign of Cancer and the moon moves into the sign of Libra, balancing out that Venus while Mars moves into this watery emotional world where it's been in this place of the mental realm. It's been in Gemini, where things are moving quickly, things are things are changing quickly. Now it's going to slow down. Now we're going to pull back into the cool waters, and we're going to look at our own space, and we're going to see what is working here and where Mars and that drive and that motivation needs to rev us forward within our own space somehow, within where we've come from on many different levels. Shifting, changing, releasing, karma. I don't like everything is a result of karma. I think from what I understand and how I am currently understanding karma, like it's just it's just a pile, not just, but karma is like ever building. Every action, every reaction goes into the karmic bag, and then things blossom from that in their own time. I don't think it's like, you know, we need all good karma, we need bad karma. It's just karma. I don't think things as like good and bad, because like nothing cancels anything out from what I understand and like the way it feels to me. It just kind of like, oh, okay, we have block here, block here, block here, block here, and like there's the karma, you know, there's the karma bag right there. So karma, releasing, healing, shifting, yeah, lots of changes, but lots of good healing changes, I think, for lots of us here. So I'm gonna take a peek in the comments here real quick because I haven't, and I see we have a few. Hi, Melissa. Good to see you here. And oh, hey, yes, good to see you here too. It has been a while. Thank you for coming back. Neptune and the blue, yeah. So the blue gaseous atmosphere, like hard to see through. Very. The physical traits of the planets, you can look in those and you can meditate on how those correlate with the planet itself. Like Neptune, Uranus spins sideways, like in a different erratic pattern than the other planets, going against the grain, right? Like lots of, yeah, you can look at those, like even the moon, how it changes, how our emotions change and shift. You can definitely look at those physical traits. And hi, Susan. Good to see you here. Looking forward to meditate the past away. Yeah. It's, you know, it's a good time to do that. It's a good time to stop and to breathe, especially when you're dealing with family and, you know, Cancer connected to the moon. Yeah, it's hard to control our temper and our sensitive side, and that's often what it is. It's a sensitivity, and it's a caringness. So Cancer cares so much that sometimes it can seem like, wow, why are you overreacting? It's because I care. It's because I love you. It's because I love myself. I love whatever the thing is, and I want it to be just right. And Pisces moon. So the Pisces full moon for you will be a big deal, especially the lunar eclipse. Wondering what degree the moon was when you were born. Saturn's rings visible at the moment. Oh, Saturn has his rings visible at the moment. Yeah, that time. Thank you for putting that word out. That's the other thing about Saturn, and that's where we get the relation to karma from Saturn, I believe, is that Saturn rules time. My husband has Saturn on his ascendant, Neptune as well, but he has Saturn on his ascendant, and he has long told me that he feels like he is ruled by time. Like he times things out in his head, and like the way he does it, it would really just kind of stress me out if I like had everything down to just that time. He's got Mercury and Virgo too, so that's pulling the little pieces apart type of thing. But okay, so, Pisces moon, 10 degrees. So, the new moon The new moon was at 11 degrees of Virgo, so the new moon was opposite your moon. So looking at these lunar themes and how you could come with some new, how you could have some new cycle. There's some really good things for you in it, this lunar cycle, and some really good healing and moving forward on some sort of lunar themes if your moon is at 10 Pisces. New moon was at 11 Virgo. So good things there. Also, Saturn recently came across your moon too, so that, you know, there's probably been some things there with that as well. So yes, moving forward into our meditation here. Oh, cards. There was a lot to talk about this week, so I don't want to forget about the cards. The tarot card, Eight of Pentacles. So this is where I'm glad that you mentioned time, because the 8 always makes me think of cycles. It always makes me think of karmic cycles, the pentacles relating to earth. So the cycles of this material world, the things that enmesh us in this material world and those things that pull us away from the material world. This feels very much like Saturn opposite the new moon, as well as Venus on the south node. So, you know, sometimes the Eight of Pentacles it's very hardworking and it's very studious and it's very like ambitious and sticking with it and keep working. Like think of all of these different pentacles and coins that the man in the Rider-Waite deck has worked on, and he's working on his last one, right? He's separated himself from the others to work hard. But sometimes we need to pull away from that. Sometimes we get too entrenched in our work. So I want to just kind of ping that as a meditation point of like, where are you putting forward your full effort, but where are you separating yourself or kind of exiling yourself from something that will help you get that work done and that work forward. So I thought that was pretty fitting for what we have. And then I did go with an oracle card this week. So we have the Animal Guardian, trust your instincts. Trusting your instincts. You know, when Mars is in the sign of Cancer and there's all of this emotional angst that could be going on, when Saturn is so strong in a lunar cycle. Actually, Mercury will be opposite Saturn at the time of the full moon, the lunar eclipse in Pisces as well. So Saturn is very strong in this. Mars and Neptune at the outset of this cycle here, starting off, where things could get a little bit fuzzy in our brain, or we could get a little bit carried away of things. Trusting your instincts. Sometimes that's coming back to our breath and just... So those are the cards that I have for this week. I think I just want to put it out there that I would like to focus our meditation this week on grounding, on stabilizing, because there's so much changing and shifting energy going on this week and things that could kind of throw us off kilter a little bit. Mars in Cancer can be a bit difficult for some people, especially for those people that their Mars is a little bit more outgoing. So like if you're a Mars and Aries person, this might feel like spinning your wheels or sputtering out a little bit. So just putting that out there, that like Mars in Cancer can be very, very productive on an emotional level, on a healing level, on that inner karmic level of like family lineage and all that stuff that we already talked about. But at the same time, it can be quick to react to emotions. We'll say that. So just something to be mindful of. So I think grounding is always good, but I think especially right now, doing a quick little grounding meditation will help all of us. So let's take one last little look at the intention if we have not. Rhythms that build and dismantle, develop. Rhythms that build and dismantle, develop. I'm going to take the intention off of here, and we have our intentional candle, our white candle as always. I like to use white so that way you can change it into any color you want, as well as white being amplifying, purifying, clarifying. This energy of the white candle that has this candle has white sage oil in it, so there is this purifying and cleansing aspect to it. So blank slate. blank slate coming into our meditation to where we can create whatever it is that we need to create, whatever we need to cultivate, whether it's peace, grounding, ambition, whatever it is. Yeah, so I have our intentional candle here, and as I light the candle, I'm going to repeat the intention out loud. I encourage you to recite the intention with me, whether it's out loud in your head, writing it down, whatever works for you where you are. Rhythms that build and dismantle, develop. Okay. So I light the intentional candle. As I do, the flame ignites. As the flame ignites, it starts to grow. And as the flame grows, so does our intention. Rhythms that build and dismantle, develop. Rhythms that build and dismantle, develop. As always, let's start our meditation by taking just a moment to check in with our breath and where we are at this moment. Rhythms that build and dismantle, develop. Rhythms that build and dismantle, develop. Taking just a moment to check in with your breath, acknowledging the quality of your breath at the start of this meditation. Just acknowledging, not judging or trying to change or passing any sort of judgment at all. Just noticing and honoring our breath, whatever that means in this moment. Now perhaps your breath is even, calm, surrender, fluid, flowing in and out at just the right intervals. But perhaps there is some level of, let's say, insufficiency of the breath. Perhaps you notice it being a little slow or sluggish. Perhaps you notice your breath being rushed. Perhaps you notice that you aren't able to take a full deep breath in because of some sort of anxious worry or something that's on your mind. Perhaps you're tired or sleepy. Perhaps you're energized and ready to go. Still attempting to not pass judgment on what we notice within our breath. But allowing ourselves to care for that little detail and sending love to that little detail in this moment. Whether it seems like a big detail or a small little detail. And if you notice no insufficiencies, perhaps you give love and acknowledgement to the fact that everything is just as it should be. And you focus and give a little love and attention to that levelness that you have. Wrapping our love and our thoughts and our arms around our own breath, our own prana, our own life force, that which connects the outer world and the atmosphere and the ethers of the universe around us into our being, and that which connects the energy that comes from our being expelled through the exhale into the ethers and the atmosphere around us. Loving and caring, honoring a small part of our breath. As you connect deeply and strongly with your own breath, on your next inhale, I want you to feel the energy coming into your being, into your body. And as you do so, feel that energy pulling down into your being. Comes down through your throat, into your chest area, down into your abdominal cavity. And that energy continues to move right out of your sit bones into the surface that is below you. And as that breath moves slower, deeper and deeper, you feel that breath physically tethering you to the earth below. You see and feel physical roots coming from your own being, from your own breath, into the earth below you. As you continue to inhale, they move deeper and deeper into the earth, stabilizing and building a foundation. On the exhale, these roots solidify within the dirt of the earth. Here you breathe. Within the deep, perhaps dark root system that anchors your whole being. This root system, it is comprised of many, many different parts of you. This root system includes all of your past experiences of this life and those that may have came before this life. It includes our family history and our lineage, those physical, mental, and emotional traits, patterns, and habits that have been passed down through generations. Both our conscious and subconscious mind and all of the memories that it holds, those that have happened to us, those that have been told to us, those that we just know somehow. These roots contain everything and anything that have led you to this point. The experiences, the emotions, the actions, the reactions, the way you have treated others, the way others have treated you. Noticing what you see, taking note of any details, colors, feelings that arise, digging deep within the earth. And as we do so, digging deep within our own being and our own soul. Solidifying our base and our foundation. While still feeling this deep connection to the earth below, our focus starts to move up through the roots, back up towards our body. as the energy and the focus begins to come back up into your physical being, you notice that your body is solid and firm, just like that of a tree trunk. In fact, picture yourself as roots in the ground, your body, the trunk coming up, and as the trunk continues to grow and to build, you start to notice beautiful leaves or flowers, colors that grow and develop from your being, blossoming and blooming in a beautiful greenery, perhaps other colors. Building, building, and building. And then you see yourself, you see this tree living through the season. Spring, summer, then it starts to turn to fall. The leaves and the buds and the blooms and the flowers start to fall away. Part of the tree begins to dismantle. Preparing for what comes next. You see your tree losing all of its leaves and all of its greenery through the fall and through the winter. You see it surviving through those roots, everything that is feeding it. Moving into the next season of spring, the leaves and the blooms and the buds start to come back. Season of building, developing, and blossoming. Seeing the tree living through spring and summer yet again. Fall arrives, and you see the leaves start to fall away. The cycle continues in your mind's eye as you see yourself as this tree alternating, building and dismantling, developing within your own being, within your own environment. Cycles that, although they happen to each and every one of us, it may differ on exactly how these cycles and these moments of change affect us. Just as Mars plays out a different way for each and every one of us, just as Cancer resides in a different part of our chart from your neighbor, our actions and our reactions and our experiences are all unique. Yet we are all held and supported by that same divine nature. We all have that root system deep within the ground, stabilizing us, supporting us, and loving us. So as you go forward into the next minutes, hours, days, weeks, and months, as things are shifting, as things are changing, even if it feels uncomfortable, know that you are supported and loved. Know that you have the ability to discern what is the right step for you. And if it's a time to build or if it's a time to dismantle. If it's a time to move or if it's a time to stay within your own shell. Different for all of us, right? Thank you, thank you, thank you, all of you, for being here. I appreciate you all, as always. The energies this week are very useful and very healing, but things are building, things are shifting, things are changing. As things are building and things are dismantling at the same time, pulling little bits and pieces apart, it can feel like a lot. It can feel like we're overwhelmed. And then Mars moves into the sign of Cancer, and there's emotional overwhelm within the collective. No, it can be that way, but it can also be an emotional healing. Could be, you know, Mars in the feminine water sign of the moon. You know, we could start to see some sort of divide amongst feminine and masculine energies, however that plays out, whether it's between men and women, whether it's women's rights, whether it's equality, all of these type of things. Caring for our family, caring for the young, all of those type of subjects can show up both personally and collectively. So yeah, thank you all for being here. I hope that this lunar cycle is just as stabilizing and solidifying as it is sobering and somber. I hope that the details that are pulled apart are not overwhelming for you and that you're able to put all of the pieces together. The full moon is going to be opposite, has Mercury opposite Saturn. The new moon was opposite Saturn. So there could be some slowness. There could be like, this isn't going exactly the way I want it to be, but larger picture, it's going the way that it should for the framework. And whatever comes next. That doesn't mean that it's always easy. That doesn't mean that, you know, that doesn't just give a free-for-all for anything that happens to us, because when I say that, like, everything happens for a reason, it feels like some of the most like I'm just justifying some of the most terrible things in the entire world and universe. But on some level, we have all decided to experience what we are experiencing here on Earth. I think that it is almost impossible for our human minds to wrap our minds around all of that specifically, especially when those difficult, hard things happen or those patterns that keep showing up within our lives. But Mars in Cancer gives us an opportunity to break those patterns and to break those stigmas and break any of those generational curses that we may have, or generational traumas or things that have been passed down. Great potential for healing between parental and child figures, however that may possibly show up for you, whether you are the parent or you are the child. So yeah, thank you, all of you. I appreciate all of you. We will be here next Tuesday as always, so intention will be released on Sunday. Following week, we're going to switch to Sunday. So I'll probably put the intention out like Friday night, since I usually put it out Sunday night for that following week. So go to the Meditative Astrology Facebook page, find the Facebook events, and just click like going or interested or whatever it is that you feel up to. So that way you have a reminder about our scheduling for the next couple weeks here and how we will be going about from here on out. So thank you, all of you, and I hope you all get exactly what you need out of this lunar cycle. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a great night. Mwah.